The day the sky caught fire. The skies over Caltris, 4 burned blue when the Drengh returned. Not from ships. Not from hyperspace. They didn't arrive with diplomacy or demands. They simply unfolded from nothing. Massive beasts of war, skin like obsidian glass, mouths too wide for biology, too sharp for physics. They erupted across the mining colony like a virus, spreading fire and terror in a symphony of unfiltered destruction. By the time reinforcements arrived, there were no survivors. Not even bones. 3 days later, Eltros Prime, capital of the Galactic Accord, held a crisis session. Representatives of 600 species screamed over one another, their voices layered in tongues so diverse even the translation AIs faltered. "The Drengh were myth," someone shouted. "They were sealed before we evolved." "They feed on pain," said another. "Every planet they touch becomes hollow." Who opened the vault? Who disturbed the seal? None answered. At the central dais, Chancellor Orathi silenced the room with a gesture of his 6-petaled hand. "We will vote. We must not act in haste. We must coordinate resources, approve force limits, and—" "Force limits," growled Ambassador Lekthun of the Trovaxian Empire. "They've already destroyed 5 systems." "The Accord prohibits excessive planetary warfare," Orathi said gently. "We cannot abandon our laws, even in panic." "Panic!" Lekthun slammed his spiked fist on the table. "This is not panic. This is war." Silence followed, cold and uncertain. It was then that a quiet voice rose from the far end of the chamber. "Why haven't we called the humans?" The room shuddered, not from sound, but discomfort. Political discomfort. Humanity had been a latecomer to the galactic scene. Their biology was unremarkable, their culture crude. But what they lacked in elegance, they made up for in 2 things, adaptability and an uncanny talent for violence. They had fought on arrival. Not out of hostility, but principle. Honor duels. Defensive bombings. A short-lived rebellion over trade tariffs that escalated into orbital sabotage. They were given a seat in the Accord. Distant. Watched. No one asked them for help. Until now. On Earth, the Unified Command Strategic AI received the transmission. Within minutes, General Talia Vorn was awakened in her subterranean office beneath Olympus Mons, Mars. The Council's message was formal, nervous, layered in diplomatic niceties. She ignored it. Instead, she accessed the long-dormant files labeled Abyss Division. Her retinal scan blinked green. The lock disengaged. Inside were mission logs, battle reports, forbidden weapon specs, and profiles on operatives who technically no longer existed. The division had been shut down 5 years prior. Too messy. Too effective. No. It was exactly what the galaxy needed. 3 days later, aboard the orbital dreadnought Havoc Mercy, General Vorn stood before a reactivated task force of 12,000 humans, Marines, engineers, void tacticians, and operatives from every corner of Earth's fractured nations. Each of them trained for one purpose. High-risk, high-impact retaliation. Vorn's voice was calm, clipped, direct. "Here's what we know. The Drengh were sealed by ancient forces at the end of the Eater Wars, 30,000 years ago. The Accord unearthed them by mistake. Now, they want us to fix it. Because we're the only ones crazy enough to try." A few soldiers chuckled. She continued, eyes sharp. "This won't be a clean war. The Drengh aren't invaders. They're predators. Concepts. They kill civilizations the way viruses kill hosts. They break you until you beg to forget who you are." Someone in the crowd asked, "Why us?" Vorn smiled. "Because we're the only species too stubborn to break. We don't collapse under pressure. We respond." She tapped her datapad. The ship's lights dimmed. A single phrase flashed across the hangar wall in bold red script, human slang, unofficial and unapproved. Finally, a reason to get really vicious. The troops roared. No fanfare. No pretense. Just relief. Relief that they were finally being unleashed. Back on Eltros Prime, the Galactic Council watched the live feed of Earth's mobilization with a mix of awe and dread. Ambassador Lekthun muttered, "You asked for fire. Chancellor Orathi turned pale. "No, we asked for help." Lekthun's voice was grim. "Same difference, when humans are involved. Uncivilized and unstoppable." The moment the Havoc Mercy slipped from Earth's orbit, the galaxy braced for the storm. Alien intelligence watchers scrambled for data, diplomats whispered warnings, and the Council convened emergency sessions to debate the human problem. Because humans didn't play by the rules. Not the civilized ones. General Talia Vorn paced the command deck, eyes sharp beneath a visor streaked with the remnants of Martian dust. Around her, the Abyss Division prepared to unleash hell. This wasn't just a deployment. It was a declaration. Humanity was done being ignored. The Abyss Division was unlike any force the galaxy had seen. Their training was brutal, half-mad simulations designed to break soldiers mentally and physically. Their weaponry fused old Earth ingenuity with stolen alien tech, resulting in brutal hybrids, plasma scythes, kinetic pulse rifles, and bioadaptive armor that learned from each encounter. But their deadliest asset was something the Council couldn't quantify: their attitude. "War isn't just bullets and bombs," Vorn had told her lieutenants. "It's a contest of wills. The Drengh have terror. We have fury." The first engagement was swift and brutal. At the fringes of Drengh-infested space, a mining asteroid called Rylos Prime had been besieged for 2 days. The Drengh's tendrils spread like a cancer, corrupting everything. The Abyss Division arrived without warning. Instead of a traditional assault, they unleashed firestorm bombs, orbitally launched incendiaries that burned so hot they vaporized rock and air alike. Then, kinetic pulse drones swept through the flames, tearing through Drengh broodlings with surgical precision. Alien observers watched in stunned silence as human squads charged into the smoky ruins, wielding scavenged Drengh weapons turned against them. Their battle cry was simple: "Make it personal." One such squad was led by Sergeant Kel Vax, a veteran who had survived 3 insurgencies on Earth and the brutal ice wars on Europa. Kel's voice was gruff over comms. "The Drengh don't know what hit him. We're not just fighting monsters, they're fighting us. And that scares the hell out of them." On the ground, his team moved with lethal efficiency, striking without hesitation and showing no mercy. A Council liaison reported, "The Drengh retreat where others would have fled, but they are disoriented. Our sensors detect reduced psychic activity." "Because they're facing something they don't understand," Vorn replied, watching the feed from the command deck. But it wasn't just firepower. Humanity's edge was their unpredictability and ruthless pragmatism. Vorn had integrated alien soldiers into the Abyss Coalition, tentacled navigators from Vraxian, telepathic scouts from Surlek, and heavy weapons specialists from Quell, yet none matched the human sheer will. At night, when the alien soldiers rested, humans strategized differently. Where others sought negotiation, humans prepared traps. Where others feared collateral damage, humans embraced it. Where others counted casualties, humans learned from them and came back harder. The turning point came during the battle for Othran's Rift, a devastated system where entire planets had been wiped out. Vorn led a strike force to infiltrate a Drengh hive, a sprawling biomechanical fortress pulsing with malevolent intelligence. It was a suicide mission. Inside the hive, humans encountered horrors that would have shattered any other race. Minds bent by psychic screams. Visions of their worst fears. But the Abyss Division pushed forward. When telepathic assaults assaulted their brains, they countered with neural disruptors, devices designed to fracture thought and turn psychic attacks into static. When monstrous tendrils lashed out, humans fought back with improvised weapons, flamethrowers built from scavenged tech, acid grenades crafted from hive toxins. Through it all, Vorn's team advanced relentlessly. After days in the hive's depths, the Abyss Division struck the hive brain's core. Instead of destruction, they deployed a radical device, the memory loop. It trapped the hive brain in an endless feedback cycle of its own terror, a recursive nightmare loop from which it couldn't escape. The psychic shrieks echoed across comm channels. Vorn smiled grimly. "That's what happens when you mess with humans." Back on Eltros Prime, Council members received reports that shattered old beliefs. The Drengh were not invincible. They could be beaten. But at what cost? General Vorn's last message before the next phase was blunt. "Prepare for war. The galaxy unleashed hell, but we're about to show them what it means to fight back. And we're not playing nice anymore." In the endless void, the Abyss Division was becoming a storm. And the galaxy would never forget the day humanity got really vicious. The problem with fighting humans. The Drengh had never faced an enemy like humanity before. Other species fled at the first psychic assault, collapsing into despair or madness. But humans pushed back. They didn't just fight with weapons, they fought with unyielding minds and raw emotion, an unpredictable storm of rage, hope, and stubborn will. General Talia Vorn stood overlooking the shattered landscape of Yelmerus Prime, a planet that had once been a proud trading hub now reduced to twisted metal and smoldering ruins. The air was thick with the acrid stench of burned biomass and ozone from plasma blasts. Her comm crackled. Command to Vorn, status report. Vorn took a breath. We've cleared the northern sector, but the hive network is still active. The Drengh are retreating, but only to regroup. They're planning something. Understood. We're sending reinforcements, the voice replied. Vorn turned to her second-in-command, Lieutenant Kale Doran, a former street fighter with a reputation for brutal tactics. Kale, we need to hit their hive brain core. Sever their command. Without it, they fall apart. Kale nodded. Agreed, but the hive's psychic defenses are stronger than before. They're feeding off fear, our fear. Vorn's gaze hardened. Then we stop being afraid. The Drengh's power was rooted in the psychic dread they sowed. Their hive brain was a living nightmare, a sentient war fortress that rewrote reality to terrify their prey. It was a weapon of psychological and physical destruction. But humans didn't crumble. They absorbed pain and fear like fuel. That was the problem. Vorn's unit prepared for a mission unlike any before, a deep infiltration into the hive's core to deploy a weaponized memory virus designed to destabilize the hive brain's psychic control. To understand the enemy's mind, they had to confront their own. The soldiers underwent neural conditioning, an experimental process that forced them to relive their darkest memories. Failures, losses, betrayals. Pain sharpened into resolve. "Welcome to hell," Vorn told them, her voice steady. The day of the assault arrived. Descending into the hive's labyrinthine tunnels, the team fought off Drengh sentinels and twisted biomechanical traps. The psychic assault battered their minds, but neural disruptors helped block the worst. Inside the core chamber, the hive brain pulsed with an eerie glow, like a heart beating with malevolent intelligence. Kale stepped forward, deploying the memory virus device. As it activated, the hive brain's psychic shrieks echoed, twisting space and time. Suddenly, the soldiers were trapped in a psychic projection, visions of their worst fears made real. Vorn found herself reliving the siege of New Mumbai, the day she lost her entire squad to a surprise ambush. Her mind screamed with the weight of that failure. But instead of breaking, she centered herself. This is the moment. She channeled her rage into clarity. "Remember who you are," she barked into comms. One by one, the team shattered their psychic prisons. Memories of loss transformed into fuel, pain into defiance. They fought back inside the mindscape. Outside the hive, the battle raged. The Drengh unleashed waves of broodlings and psychic projections to protect their heart. But human reinforcements arrived just in time. Using guerrilla tactics and brutal force, they held the line. Inside the psychic battlefield, Vorn reached the hive brain's core consciousness. She saw it, not as a monster, but as a fractured entity, terrified of its own unraveling. The memory virus spread like wildfire, forcing the hive brain to confront its own fears and failures, endless loops of defeat and pain. The hive's psychic scream was deafening. With one last surge of mental strength, Vorn severed the core's psychic links. The hive brain collapsed, a starburst of dying psychic energy fracturing the tunnels. Emerging victorious but battered, the Abyss Division had shattered the Drengh's central command. The enemy retreated into the void, broken and leaderless. In the aftermath, Vorn stood on the bridge of the Havoc Mercy, looking at the starfield. Her voice was quiet but firm. "They thought they could scare us into submission. They forgot that humans grow in hell." Lieutenant Doran nodded. "We're not just soldiers. We're the nightmare they never expected." The galaxy was changing. Where others saw chaos, humans saw opportunity. Where others saw despair, humans saw resolve. The Council was forced to reconsider their fear of humanity. For all their chaos and brutality, humans had become the galaxy's fiercest shield. But with victory came new questions. How far would humanity go? What price would be paid for this newfound power? And what monsters lurked beyond the Drengh, waiting for their turn? And the stars went quiet. The Abyss Division's final campaign took them to the edge of known space, into the black void where light itself seemed afraid to linger. The Drengh remnants had fled here, desperate and broken, clutching at the last shreds of their shattered hive mind. General Talia Vorn stared at the swirling maelstrom of the neutron star system, a volatile heart of gravity and radiation that warred with the fragile ships in orbit. "We trapped them here," she said. "No escape. No mercy." Her voice was calm, but beneath it lay a fierce undercurrent. This was not just a battle for survival, it was a reckoning. The final assault was a symphony of destruction. The Abyss Division deployed Project Tithe, a weapon unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, a self-aware antimatter war prison designed to trap the Drengh in a pocket dimension, fueled by rage and despair. It was cruel. It was final. As the fleet closed in, Drengh war beasts howled, psychic screams reverberating through the void, desperate, furious, uncomprehending. Humans and their allies braced for the clash. The battle tore through the system like a tempest. Swarm after swarm of Drengh crashed against the human lines, clawing and biting with feral desperation. The Abyss Division responded with brutal precision, plasma bursts, kinetic shields, and explosive shockwaves reshaping the battlefield every second. Amid the chaos, Vorn led a strike team directly into the heart of the enemy fleet, aiming to deploy the Tithe device. The stakes were clear. If they failed, the Drengh could escape and unleash terror anew. If they succeeded, countless worlds would be saved, but at a terrible cost. Inside the flagship Nemesis Wraith, the Hive-Brain's final bastion, the team faced horrors beyond imagination. The walls pulsed with organic matter, alive and twisting. Psychic tendrils lashed at their minds, dredging up their deepest fears and regrets. Vorn steadied herself, drawing on memories both painful and empowering. "You are not alone." With grit and unyielding will, they pushed forward. At the core chamber, the Tithe device activated, its antimatter field rippling outwards, folding space and drawing the Drengh consciousness into its eternal prison. Outside, the system fell silent. The Drengh screams faded into nothingness. A deafening quiet settled across the stars. Back on Eltros Prime, the Galactic Council watched with mixed emotions. Relief. Oh, fear. Ambassador Lekthun, once a skeptic, whispered, "They did it. They actually did it." Chancellor Orethi nodded, pale but resolute. "The galaxy owes them a debt, one we may never repay." But General Vorn's message was clear. When congratulated, she responded, "Don't thank us. Just don't wake up anything else." She understood better than anyone. The fire humanity carried was not a gift, it was a curse. The war had ended. But humanity's place in the galaxy was forever changed. No longer were they seen as unruly barbarians. They were the galaxy's fiercest guardians, and its most dangerous wild card. In the quiet aftermath, Vorn reflected on what they had become. They had unleashed hell, and in response, they had become the hell others feared. But inside that hell burned a spark, humanity's unbreakable spirit. And somewhere in the dark, new threats stirred, watching, waiting. Because in a universe where hell had been unleashed once, it could always be unleashed again.